This video is designed to show you how to use the TrackDrive lead to call automation tool, which will send out text messages, emails, and make outbound phone calls to your leads, trying to get them in on your offer to get consumers on the line. Okay, so I'm going to go into setup, and the first step I'm going to do is create my number pool that I'll be used to do my dialing and my texting to the consumers. Now at the time of this video, you have to have a third-party upstream. The ones we're integrated with are Telnex, Plevo, and Twilio. Later on, and I'll remake this video at that time, we'll let you use our numbers because we have some new upstream providers that will allow that to happen. So I'm just going to do test SLC pool. Alright, so the offer I'm trying to do this is my student loan offer. I do not put in a traffic source. The number limit doesn't matter because for a dialing pool, I would actually fill that manually with some local numbers here and there instead of letting TrackDrive just pull the numbers manually. Is why I'm going to turn off auto rent for my dialing pools, because I don't want TrackDrive to go pulling numbers and fill it up. I want to put those in there manually. Alright, so I don't need to worry about stockpile because it's not pulling numbers manually, automatically I mean. So then we're going to come in and say I want to use Twilio in the United States. This all doesn't matter because I stick the numbers in manually. But this is the most important things. When we're dialing outbound and sending text messages, you can say, yes, I'd prefer to use a number that's somewhat local. We will not let you dial from local numbers, quote unquote, without actually owning the number. That is illegal, and no one's looking to go to the popo for that, or whatever the jail word is that's hip today. But anyway, we're going to dial from a matching area code if we have it, or if we don't, look for one that matches within the state. We can also map the area codes. For example, if you're doing Northern California and Southern California or something like that, trying to get the area codes to be a little more closer to where the people live, you can list the area codes that the leads might have and what area code to dial with. So you can map that as well. And the order of operations is we try to find an exact match, a mapped match, and then just look for the area code that matches within the state. So I'm going to go ahead and create this number pool here. So now we have a pool of numbers we're going to build. You would just buy numbers and force them into this pool, and that's how you're going to build the thing manually. In a future release, we will have in the pool creation, when you go to fill it, you'll be able to see all the area codes in America, see how many numbers you want from each one, and then we can go ahead and fill that up for you automatically. We do not have that at the time of this video, however. Alright, so in the schedules itself, I'm going to go ahead and add a new schedule. And I just need to name it whatever. So test schedule 1 is fine. It's going to be for this offer. I'm going to go ahead and start it as paused, but I don't really need to the way I'm setting things up here. And then, in fact, I'm not going to. And then the filters are if someone's going to be posting leads to you and they don't filter as you expect, or just to make it safe. Let's say you don't handle New York and Illinois for student loan. You could filter off those geos right here. Or let's say a publisher is sending you some leads to call on, and his leads are so bad you need to stop them immediately. Instead of calling him to stop, you could come into manage filters and say, I don't want to take leads from that guy. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create the schedule. Now in here, so this was what I just set up to create the schedule. Now here is the things we can do. So I'm going to say I do want to dial with the pool. I'm not sorry, I can't do, but here's our configuration. So I'm going to dial with the pool, and test SLC pool is what I just set up. So that's the pool I'm going to dial with, and then because my data is real time in my demo here, I'm going to tell it not to skip numbers on the national DNC, and I tell it not to skip mobile numbers. But depending on your data and how old it is, use your judgment here. Okay. Detect answering machine would only be used if you're not using the instant agent mode. If you're using an IVR to get the people through, you send them a call and say press 1 if you're interested. You can turn on detect answering machine. That technology is by far from perfect. So I prefer to do a press 1 to get through, press 2 for that, to allow the system to, if no one presses a button, it's just that they're not there, or it's an answer machine that did answer, or they're not interested or whatever. But if you do turn on detect answering machine, just know there will be some false positives, and false negatives, and all those things that happen with detect answering machine. If we do detect an answering machine, there is another option in the offer to also just leave a voicemail. We'll stop playing the greeting to them to get through detect as answering machine, and then play the message that is the voicemail. The one I prefer to do is the instant agent mode, and the only difference is instead of calling consumers and then having them use an IVR to get through your offer, we're going to call an agent first, get him on the phone. He stays on that phone, he or she stays on that phone for 8 hours, 12 hours, who cares? They just never get off that phone call, and we just keep calling consumers for them, your leads for them, and getting them on the line and entering them into the agent's conference. And then the agent uses our widget to say what's going on, transfers the call to a buyer, leaves a voicemail, whatever, dispositions the call to get out, and moves on to the next call. But they never hang up on their phone call that they started to get the ball rolling. Okay, so I like the instantation mode quite a bit. The SMS settings, we always want to just use the same number pool so that your text messages and your outbound calls are coming from the same place. All right. Now, when a lead comes in, we do sticky both the dialing number and a texting number. If they're using the same pool, we do sticky the same number to the lead. That way we're trying to communicate with the lead with the same number all the time. Okay, business hours. Basically, most people just leave it open, the schedule running 24/7. You'll see when I'm setting up the caller actions that you can say that I only want to do this during daytime hours, or I only want to do it when a buyer's available. So that way the scheduler can really be running around the clock, and your settings and the actions will control when the actions actually take place. Okay, we did fight with people over what was daylight hours, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Different countries had different thought processes. So and what we have going on here is that we let people decide what daylight hours for them. It does do this in each time zone. All right, so the limits on this are how many, we don't really have you set limits. The only limit I would set would be the on-hold limit, and that would be to if someone went in the hold queue as we're dialing them, we're going to go ahead and stop the dialer until that hold queue empties, and then we'll start dialing again. If you are having leads submitted in real time, you can say how long we look back for duplicate leads, what do we base that dedupe time period on, and if you're posting leads in from a website, you could set this to 1 lead per IP address per day or per month or whatever. But if you're posting from another server, that's why we default to 1 million. It's always going to have the same IP address, so we don't want to filter by IP address or your leads won't come in. Now, these system limits here in gray are things only our admin at TrackDrive can set for you. We're trying to protect you from doing stupid things. However, if it makes sense that you're going to be doing faster sends or things, especially with SMS sends, we try to match that up to what your provider has. So if you're using a Twilio account and they have you set to go 100 SMS per second, then we'll move this number up to get closer to matching them, but we don't want to go over what your provider has because they will start rejecting things that you're sending text too fast. So we just kind of sync that up. But all these limits here, when you read over these and have one that you need changed, just talk to support. All right, and the caller ID name that goes over, I might say student help, for lack of better words. You're going to test this. This will change in real time when you change the caller name as we're dialing, and it will show the phone number we're calling from, but also this will be the contact name, CNAME, consumer name, CNAME, whatever the CNAM stands for. But that's what's going to show on the caller ID to the caller. All right, so here's the actions we have down here. I'm going to click update here because I tend to get out of things and forget to save them. So, all right, so my caller actions here. This is how are we going to get a hold of the consumer, okay, or the lead. If it was a business to business, it could show out a lead. So if mine were real time, I might send a text message first and say, thanks for filling out your form. I'm not going to type all that out. We will be calling from TrackDrive number in 90 seconds. Pick up that phone, whatever. So whatever message you want to send to them, you can use any of your tokens in here to change data like hi first name or thank you first name or whatever. So that's available. Now I am going to tell the system to go ahead and wait for daylight hours and to wait for a buyer to be available, so that I'm sending this text message because we're going to call in 90 seconds. I want to make sure both of these things are happening, so we're not going to send him a text message saying we're calling in 90 seconds and it's 3 in the morning, or none of my buyers in his area are open for another 2 hours. So you want to make sure you do this. Any of the actions we put on the contact caller actions or even into schedule actions, you can filter them. So I might have my leads come in and say, I have a flag in there called real time equals true. And I tell the system, don't do this if my flag for real time is not equal to true, because it's not a real time lead and I don't want to send a text message. So the filters you put in here, you can use your data or system tokens to filter the action from happening. Okay. So I've set up my text message. Now I'm going to come here in my new action. I'm going to tell it to wait 90 seconds because I told them I'd be calling them in 90 seconds. Okay. So I'm going to do that wait. And then the new action I'm going to do is going to go ahead and paste that call because I told them I was going to place that call. I'm going to wait for daylight and I'm going to wait for a buyer to be available. Now, probably today, but at the time of making this video, we'll probably have another checkbox here for make lead priority worse by 1. So after the call's done, we'll make the lead priority worse so that leads that are coming in, the newer leads have better priority. If we didn't have a lead priority as we're fetching our leads, what would happen is this guy might be on call number 15 that we're trying to get a hold of the guy, and is scheduled to be called, now. And then a real-time lead comes in, and we have hundreds of these leads that are scheduled to be called now. A real-time lead comes in and has to wait for those 100 if we didn't have lead priority. So we do have a field called lead priority that we're going to tell that to keep making the leads worse by 1, so that leads that are scheduled to be called now are preempted by leads that have a better priority. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. Now, just as I said, I don't have the checkbox, so for now, I'm going to have to come in here and say I want to modify the lead priority to add 1 to it. Now, the lower the lead priority, the better, just like everything that we have in our system that's a priority or tier. We always have the lowest number as the best number. Alright, so I'm going to change the lead priority by 1, then maybe wait 30 seconds, and call again. And then modify my lead priority again. You'll see how convenient that will be to have the checkbox for just bumping the lead priority by 1. For now, this is how we do it, but we always want to do that after every single call. You want to go ahead and bump the lead priority by 1 so that the lead itself gets worse and worse and worse over time, so newer leads at the same priority start point become a bigger priority and get fetched first. So usually clients will go haywire here on TrackDrive. They'll slow down now. So instead, the reason we place a call and then place a call 30 seconds later is many of the cell phones out there will have, if the number's marked as spam, to not even let it go through to the customer. So as more people complain about the numbers, which is going to happen, you do have to refresh your numbers. The cell phone industry is going to start saying this, we're getting complaints about this number. And so that second call, if they have that filter on, usually lets it go through anyway. So we do the place a call, wait 30 seconds. Now if they do see both calls, it's also convenient that they're like, well, who's trying to call me twice in a row? And it helps people answer. I've even seen people do wait another 30 seconds and call them again. That's all up to you. But the key is you can do whatever you want to do in the system here to try to get the customer on the line. Send them an email, send them a text message. We can webhook out somewhere. Let's say that after the first day we need to notify a pub that we're still working on the call, or something like, who knows. You could send a webhook to that publisher system saying, hey, it's been a day, we're still working on it. I'll show you down below what a more common thing for a webhook is. Alright, so these things here all working well, and you just go ahead and put in whatever schedule you want. I do have people ask me quite often about this wait time. They think it's relative to when the lead was added to the system. It is not. It's relative to the previous thing completing. So here, wait 90 seconds, place a call. If we were leaving a voicemail and all that stuff, it's actually waiting for this call to finish before it steps on to the next thing. So the wait here would wait for this call to finish, then bump the lead priority, and then wait 30 seconds after this call is completed. Okay. So you can key in all your actions. Most of my clients will key in weeks of actions trying to get to these people very fast at first and slowing down over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, just saying, hey, you still around? Did you ever get help? You can make the schedule last as long as you want just by putting the longer wait periods in between actions. Now here are the triggers to end the schedule. So by default, we tell it to end lead schedule when buyer connects with lead. So when the buyer answers the phone, we're going to kill the lead. That's the normal way we do things. However, you can trigger it to die when we dial a buyer, die when we connect, die when the buyer converts. This one's kind of dangerous because if someone answered the phone as a buyer and the consumer's just screaming at him, and then he gets off the phone and we call him 30 seconds later, that could be bad. So usually connect with the buyers when you kill the lead. However, some people do set it to when the buyer converts, and that's because they are the buyer and they would kill the lead on the call if they need to. Otherwise, they're going to let the thing keep calling them. It's up to them. So then, this is a nice one here. The lead expired after so many minutes. If you were doing a 3-week, 4-week schedule for your leads that you're loading yourself, but then you end up with a publisher that says, hey, can you try to turn my lead into a phone call within 10 minutes, and if not, send me back the lead. Then you could say, okay, I'm going to trigger for a certain publisher, a certain traffic source, to die after 10 minutes. So we're going to do everything we can to get them on the phone, but if we can't get them on the phone, the timer expires and we send the lead back to the publisher so he can sell it as data. Okay. Then we have when filters match. So if you have data inside the form and agents are filling out the form, if the data changes to something that would kill the lead, you're going to go ahead and trigger the end of the lead. And I'll show you how you can set some lead values on the agent permission or agent dispositions so that you can set some values and you can trigger the end of the lead. And then when they get done with all the caller actions. So if we go through all the caller actions and then the lead it will end automatically. You don't have to set this up. But the reason we have this here is because you might add some additional tokens to the end of the lead to say, hey, it went through all the actions, nothing happened. So you're setting a token value because it went through all the actions, so that data is available in a webhook on the post-call actions. Okay, so these are all the triggers that can happen. By default, it's typically when the buyer connects to the call. You can have as many triggers you want. Data changes, this publisher times out, whatever. These will all trigger the end of the schedule. Now at the end of the schedule, again, we have the same exact things, but you're probably going to use a couple of them. For example, if your lead was a auto warranty lead and you had a checkbox on it that said, are you also interested in auto insurance? Well, at the end of this process, when the lead dies, we could come here and say that we want to add it to the schedule, pick the auto insurance schedule and post the data into there to start calling them that. But we would manage filters and say, hey, if my data for interested in auto insurance equals true, do this. And then that way we would add it to the schedule. So there's lots of ways to cross-sell your leads in the phone call industry just by putting multiple schedules in. So if you have a form out there that you're hosting your own stuff, maybe mortgage, you might have a checkbox for would you also be interested in home warranty or home insurance. And then on a student loan, maybe you're interested in a new credit card or something like that. So there's all kinds of things you can co-reg your own data. And the cool thing about that method is, let's say you were doing auto warranty. You could do the auto warranty leads real time to your clients that are buying them for auto warranty, but if they check the box for I'm also interested in auto insurance, post that data to us in real time so that we're contacting them for auto insurance while your clients doing auto warranty are just contacting the client for that reason. There's no problem because they said they're interested in both and would be expecting those calls. Okay, and the other thing you might do here at end of schedule are webhooks. You need to tell a system that the lead failed or the lead was success or whatever. So we can webhook out to anywhere to tell other systems that things are going on. So in a nutshell, while there's a lot of power in here, it's pretty simple. You're going to give the description, the information about the schedule. You're going to tell us what we use to contact the person. You're going to tell us how to contact the person. You're going to tell us when to stop contacting the person. And you're going to tell us what to do when we stop contacting the person. So pretty easy and very powerful.